Good evening and welcome to On the Record, a debate-style television talk show where Bahamians will find the balanced, true, and open debate they've been looking for. An overachiever is one who is successful over and above the standard or expected level, especially at an early age. High achievers are often marked by a strong motive to achieve. Less accomplished individuals are often motivated to avoid failure. This coming Monday, our young nation turns 44, and despite our many problems, we have achieved quite a bit as a country and still maintain our status as the jewel of the Caribbean. In celebrating our 44th anniversary of independence, we decided to celebrate our people, the ones who started their careers early and are enjoying the success of their labor in an independent Bahamas. Our topic tonight is Under 40, a new generation of leaders, and our discussion will be with two young professionals. Our guests are Director of Youth Darren Turnquest and filmmaker and videographer Lovato Stubbs. It's all on the record. I'm your host, Jerome Sawyer. Our discussion begins on the other side of this break.
On the Record is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
This is us. We all live here. And while we don't think of ourselves as numbers, in the grand scheme of things, numbers are part of who we are. Like your phone number, for instance. That's why at Alive we believe you should keep your number when you switch. Go in store today and ask an Alive switch angel. They'll make it real simple for you. We are alive.
What are you doing?
Calling the bank to order more checks.
Go to EP18 and order your checks from Executive Printers.
Executive Printers. We're the authority in business and personal check printing in the Bahamas. Come in and see one of our specialists or visit us online at epbahamas.com to design and order your checks today.
Speeds for free when you get TV, internet, and phone. Ask for Trio from Rev.
Join the revolution.
Shooting last night claims the life of a young woman.
Providence being urged to evacuate as soon as possible. That story.
Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis weighs in on those reasons.
Inside the huddle, everybody, Al Marcelo.
Force officer behind bars today.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Welcome back to On the Record. As said, our topic tonight, Under 40, a new generation of leaders. Our guest for this episode, Darren Turnquest. He's the Director of Youth, who's also a psychiatrist, and Lovato Stubbs, a leading filmmaker, producer, videographer. Gentlemen, welcome to On the Record. Happy to have you on this very significant show for us as we're looking at independence, but in a different kind of way.
Thank you for having me here.
Thanks for having me as well.
Gentlemen, 44 is a significant time in the life of an individual, but certainly in the life of a country as we move towards a milestone of 45 next year. But I thought For the purposes of this show, I wanted to take a different view. I mean, we always talk about the nostalgia of independence and how we've come, where we would have come from and how we would have gotten here. But I think this is an important time for the country because really when you're in your 40s, even as an individual, life changes. You're a little more mature, you would have learned some lessons. Some things are a little different for you. I could speak from my own experience. But I wanted to really look now at where we're going in terms of the new face of the Bahamas. When you look at leadership in the country, you look at the electorate, you look at even people who are leading in business and commerce and in other areas, industry and trade, there's a new generation, the new faces, people who are emerging like yourself. So gentlemen, I want to start a little bit by giving our audience a snapshot into who you are, how you got started. Did you always think that this is where you would be at this juncture in your life? Lovato, I'll start with you.
All right. I'm a Bahamian director-producer. Like something call myself a visionary. I started off as a visual artist. By the way, I know a lot of people don't know that. You know, I painted briefly, when I was younger. Not until when I went off to school in Toronto to attend York University is where I kind of really went straight into my film passion, started in Toronto, and then from Toronto I moved on to Florida, and then LA. Now I'm back home in the Bahamas to kind of help build that film industry.
Darren, we'll come to you, and then I'll come back to something that you brought up.
So, I guess I started off thinking that I'd become a medical doctor. That didn't take place. I had to give that news to my father. Left UB, didn't graduate from there, went off to Canada. Nice. Hooray for Canada. Went to Katy University, studied psychology. After studying psychology, I left there, went to Anna Maria College in Boston, Massachusetts, and actually went to work and was offered a part scholarship from my place of employment, which is the KEY program, which some people don't know. I was in juvenile corrections at the time. And during that time, I started to do some work where I was working with kids thinking that I'd be a case manager, but I was actually a house parent, and then moved up until I became a deputy director for the program. Leaving there, I came back home and graduated my master's before coming back home, and rolled here into the Bahamas. And I say rolled because it was not my dream or my aspiration at that time to come home. And I started working at the Bahamas Crisis Center as a volunteer because I couldn't find work for about 6 to 8 months. And then after that, found a job at St. Andrew's School part-time, got involved at University of the Bahamas, which was COB at the time, part-time, and then I had my own private practice, part-time. So 3/4 of a job, you could say I had. And after 5 years of now working full-time at St. Andrew's School, I saw an ad in the paper to apply for a director of youth position, and I was convinced by my friends that I should do it. So I really just put it in, just as a joke, because I never thought or imagined that somebody at my age, at 29, would have been hired to be a director in a government agency. And I guess the joke was on me. 6 years later, after promising only to give 2 years in the government, I'm still here serving as a director of youth in the country.
It works that way sometimes. So I'm just going to give this a time. But gentlemen, in both instances, you were really on the way to very successful careers abroad. You're in LA, which is the film capital of the world. It's where people aspire to get to. But you decided to come home. You are in Canada, starting out a career, obviously many great opportunities, but came home. What was it that made you decide to, in your words, come and help build the Bahamas?
What it was, when I was in Toronto, every time I'd be on set, I mention I'm from the Bahamas. People, you just see the expressions when they hear the word Bahamas, And then from there, I moved to Florida, where I went to Full Sail University. And, being a foreign student in a film school as well, everybody, when they hear the Bahamas, they always think one thing of the Bahamas, a certain image, a tourism image, right? Beaches, that's all they think about. So for me, when I was in school, when I moved from Toronto to Florida for Full Sail University, I would come home and do a few projects. And then when I go back and show people these projects, they're like, wow, the Bahamas has this is this. And it gave a way to show our culture in a certain way, and that's why I like film. Film is that expression to really show your culture in so many ways, you know, to show that we are beyond, it's more than just beaches, sunshine, and sea, you know? The Bahamas, we have people, our culture, everything is, you know, it's a very, very amazing culture. So that was one of the things that made me, you know, I felt like there was a need to kind of take the way things were done abroad in the film industry and bring it here into the Bahamas. And I think, you know, me and some other really great filmmakers were able to establish that and establish a film industry. I would say it's not there yet, but we're getting towards that, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Darren, in your instance, you said you came home almost, I wouldn't say begrudgingly, but it wasn't in your plan.
It wasn't my plan. I wanted a job where I worked on a 42nd floor in New York.
I had that dream.
Yeah, with a chair, and I was close to it. I was forced to come back because my visa required a 2-year residency requirement. So I had landed a very great job, 6-figure plus, in Hagerstown, Maryland, with a top psychiatrist. I'm a psychologist, with a top psychiatrist. And I was forced to come back, but when I got back, I recognized that there's power in being a first-class citizen, because abroad you will always be a second-class citizen. And I truly believe that. This is my country. This is where I belong. And I recognize that there was room for the growth of the field that I had been studying in for the last 7 or 8 years. And coming back and meeting other psychologists such as Ava Thompson and Stephanie Hutchison, they showed that there was room for me back here. Just being in the classroom and teaching young people to critically think about their lives and how they see issues from not just a national perspective, but from a global perspective, that was encouraging for me. And so everything that I thought was temporary became more permanent that I would have considered. I mean, we're in the world, I guess a lot of places in the world, but some people don't think that Darren Turnquest has been at the University of the Bahamas for 10 years. I started off there, I think, at maybe 27. I'm getting older now, so I don't remember. But I'll tell you that made me believe that there were more opportunities here than I could even imagine back home. You just have to be able to make people understand what it is that you want, have an objective, have a direction, and that was more encouraging for me than anything else.
When you hear people talk about the brain drain and the fact that Bahamians are going abroad and not coming back, it sometimes paints a very gloomy picture, and sometimes you begin to lose hope as to what will happen in another 40 years. Where are we going to be in terms of the development? But had you not been given, or had you not taken the opportunity or seized the opportunity to go abroad, to study, to gain experience, etc., do you think you would be where you are today?
Adding to what Darren said as well, you know, it was a similar situation with me too. I call it a blessing in disguise. Yes. My visa work permit expired in LA, and whilst I was in LA, I was working at Burnham & Murray, a reality show company that does Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Real World, and then also continuing my directing career on music videos. So, you know, going and being there is a great thing because you're able to gain the knowledge because it wasn't an industry here. Film is still a new industry. You know, even though we've made strides and did a lot of growth through it, it's still new. So being in LA, in Toronto, and experiencing the industry was great. And film school as well, because being in film school, you also get to learn the tools and the techniques that industry standards per se, you know? So that's one of the things that I would say going off to school was a blessing and was something that helped, you know, when I came back. So it's a good thing to go off to school and come back and bring that knowledge that you learn in school, and not only the school, but the experience after school is key too.
Gentlemen, we are at the point of our first break in the show. I do want to pick up and continue our discussion in that vein. But when we come back, our discussion continues. Under 40, a new generation of leaders as we head into 44 years of independence in the Bahamas. We'll be right back right after this.
This segment is sponsored by Percy's Island Game.
We're gonna give you a check every week for a year. Percy's pension plan, Island Game, keep you winning. Percy's pension plan, dream big, we will help All right, my Island Game team, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna knock on the door, and we're gonna make somebody really happy today. It's Percy's pension plan, baby! Should I go knock, 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 or knock, knock, knock? Good morning. You just won $1,000 every week for a year. Really? Percy's pension plan. Yeah! Winning is a must. Come play the game, you know, cause your best chance is with us. The most trustworthy name is Percy's.
I got no tension. I got Percy's pension.
Game, so put 20 on your account and ride this easy train at Percy.
Now you can take the very best in entertainment with you with Cinemax Go. Log in to CinemaxGoLA.com and enjoy more than 300 hours of programming, blockbuster movies, and exclusive series at your pace, as many times as you want. And for free, enjoy Cinemax with your subscription television package. Wow. Cinemax Go. Cinema to go.
Rev, join the revolution.
For news that's happening in our country, the best place to turn is Our News.
Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
The biggest stories on the best station.
Helping news tonight. The government collected almost...
The Education Minister
The Bahamas
Claims Committee explains how unsecured...
Giving you all sides of the equation to keep you informed.
Well, in other news, police are cracking down on
the claims of Bahamas creditors and
Police are on the scene here at a popular hangout
Statement
call.
yesterday, Catholic Archbishop...
Watch Our News weeknights 7:30 and weekends at 7 p.m. only on RTV.
Pure Essence presents Fresh Air UV. Odors, germs, and allergens are just a few airborne contaminants to our homes. According to the EPA, indoor air is up to 5 times more polluted than outdoor air. Air fresheners only mask odors and add chemicals to the air. Create a healthy environment with Fresh Air UV from Pure Essence. Fresh Air UV stops smoke, chemicals, and other toxins while killing mold, germs, and allergens. Call Pure Essence at 557-5634 for a healthier home and office.
Welcome back to On the Record, our special show tonight. Under 40, a new generation of leaders. My guest, Darren Turnquest, who is the Director of Youth and a psychologist. I called you a psychiatrist earlier. They are two different. So I wanted to clarify that. Also, Lovato Stubbs, producer, director, filmmaker, videographer, all that rolled into one. Darren, before we went into the break, we really begun talking about this idea of had you not had the experience abroad, would you be where you are? And I want to broach that against the effort, particularly when you look at the establishment of the University of the Bahamas, and it's growing now, encouraging Bahamians to stay at home and receive that education at home. But when you leverage that against the experiences and the things that you learn and you're able to do abroad, do you ask yourself, well, if I had stayed and done that, what would my life be like now?
I'm happy that I did it, and I recognize the importance of me doing it, because as it relates to juvenile justice, as it relates to psychology, as it relates to the whole development agenda, looking at some of the first world countries and some of the standards that they have with larger populations, with more money, you recognize that there are some interventions that they make that you can make here on a smaller scale. And I think that has really been the impetus for the success of some of the work that I've been doing with young people in the country. Not necessarily me doing it, but using a template that works with at-risk youth and applying that template to a point where it's culturally relevant. And so for me, when I think about it, I think anybody that does a degree, whether it's abroad or whether it's here, that professional development and that exposure beyond just the 242 is necessary. At the time when I was coming in, I think back home 10 years ago, it was critical. And we have to get away from this attitude that a prophet is never welcome in his own home, and that individuals who are going to University of the Bahamas for some particular reason, somebody who's now coming from abroad is more intelligent or more qualified than them. I think that's a part of our problem right now. I think that I've had the pleasure of coming from abroad and coming back home and benefiting from that assumption, but I think that assumption in itself also has to be removed.
You represent that new face of leadership in the country. And when I say leadership, I don't necessarily mean political leadership all the time. People who are leading in their fields, in industry, in the public service, in other ways. And you have been afforded those opportunities as a result of the level of education that you have received, and in some instances, the experience. From my own vantage point, I find that once you are positioned in life in a particular way, the level of education, your family background, etc., sometimes you're almost on a fast track to a high level of success. Do you find that those opportunities and the opportunities for advancement in the workplace, in your profession, in your careers, etc., do you find that these opportunities are only being given to a select few who have come from a particular background, whether it's economic background or family status, things of that nature? Are these opportunities that you are receiving and others like you, are they being made available to all young Bahamians?
Speaking from the film standpoint, I would say no. You know, I would encourage if there can be more opportunity for scholarships for the arts and film in particular, because, you know, I feel that film is such a new industry where a lot of time it's not seen as a real career, you know, per se, you know, a real career. You know, because of that, I don't think there's enough film scholarships or art scholarships, you know, scholarships in other fields, you know, in other careers. But I think, you know, there are some people that have the opportunity that others, you know, don't have that opportunity to go abroad and get the experience and to go to film school. But I think if scholarships are implemented and put into place for film, that would create a lot more opportunity. And even, not even that, you know, if there's situations where the University of Bahamas can create a film program, because, you know, now it's a university that's opportunity for that, you know? So yeah, so I think scholarships would be sort of that way of getting more people to go
FYI, everything is visual now.
It's true.
Everything we do is very visual.
Yeah.
Darren, same question.
I smile when you ask that question.
Yeah, I noticed.
Because, you know, both of you guys know me, and I often tell people that, you know, there's a particular brush that people paint you with sometimes, and I've been painted with that brush to believe that some of the accomplishments that I've had in my life or opportunities that I've had in my life has been simply because of my last name or who I know, or people go so far to even say, you know, the complexion of your skin.
And that's a real consideration.
And it's a real consideration, and in some instances maybe it's true. But I'll tell you, Jerome, and I agree with Mr. Stubbs when he speaks about scholarship opportunities and those things being accessible and opportunities being afforded. But we also have to understand that hard work is an essential for success. It is an ingredient for success. There are many individuals that have come home with psychology degrees, master's and doctorate degrees, and have simply sat there and are waiting on a job or waiting on an opportunity to come to you. I know what it is to sit down and be unemployed for 6 to 8 months. I know what it is to come from a high-paying salary to the point where I have to ask my parents for $20 gas. I know what it is to come from living in a beautiful apartment in Boston, Massachusetts, to come home and living back with my parents. But I also know what it is to struggle. I know what it is to push. I know what it is to understand that your degree is not the only thing that's going to get you there, that you have to open up those doors for networking. You have to go out there and greet people. I remember that when I first came home and I first came into position, I had no clue who Jerome Sawyer was. I picked up the phone at ZNS and said, Mr. Sawyer, I've seen you on TV. I'd like to...
That's how it all began.
That's how it all began.
In a similar setting in another place.
Because in order for you understand where your goal is, right? Right, Stubbs? You understand where your goal is. And you understand that you have to put a path in place to allow for you to reach that success, to achieve that objective. And it's not going to happen just with you. It's going to happen with people around you, and you putting yourself in the places of the right people. Point taken. Mr. Stubbs, when he first came to my office one day and we sat down and we spoke, and he told me what his dream was and what he wanted to achieve. I've not been able to be a part of that in many ways, but there was a shared experience of working together, networking together, and watching him go from his struggle to go to his success. You have to go out there and burst those doors open. This is a democracy. This is a country where it is your country. It belongs to you. Go out there and get it.
One of the things that really saddens me sometimes is when I'm asked to participate in careers fairs at high schools all over the country, and they'll say, well, oh, could you set up a table or could you come and do a display? And I watch hundreds of kids march past myself and others, Nevada even, and they go to the, and not to belittle any career, but by and large, it's the defense force, the police force, the hotel desk, nursing, similar fields. And I say to myself, I wonder whether young people are being exposed to the plethora of opportunities out there for careers, or are we pigeonholing our young people into those safe careers? Get a government job, become a police officer. I'm not taking away from anything or any profession, but that seems the default.
Correct.
That is where they go to without even giving even giving consideration to something else. And I'm wondering whose fault is that? Do we not expose children to the fact that there are other things out there to do?
You know what it was, we just had this conversation, Darren had a conversation about this before. It starts with the parents, you know. Me, you know, I was fortunate.
But the parent sometimes is locked into locked into a 9 to 5 or a civil service job, and that's all they know.
All they know, exactly.
You're only going to speak to the experience that you have.
Exactly, and start with them, because you know, if you have that child that, oh, I want to be a filmmaker, I want to be an artist, I want to be a musician, the parents are like, no, you're not going to make money from that. They're not going to pursue it because obviously they're going to listen to their parents. You know, I was fortunate to have parents that supported me throughout my entire career. You know, from I said I wanted to be a director and pursued my filmmaking career, they were behind me 100%, my cheerleaders, you know? And I think that's key. Until the parents start to understand that that's what their kids want to do, no matter what it is, because we live in, you know, we're in 2017, you know? Like you said earlier, you know, we live in a visual world. Everything is film, everything is video, you know, it's a very powerful tool. So until the parents start to support their kids and understand that, you know, you can do a career like this and you can still be successful, that would be key. And then a lot of it as well is, you know, kids now have people like me and some other filmmakers that are now pushing the industry to look at, you know, and that's a great thing too, because when we were growing up, there weren't really much filmmakers. Film was such a taboo industry, you know? Yeah, but now they have, you know, a lot of filmmakers to look at to say, hey, you could start a production company like I did, you know, my company, Kong Boy Films, and I can be a filmmaker and make it a business, you know? Yeah.
Try telling your mother at 16 years old you want to go to Hollywood to be an actor.
You know, I'm going to give a case in point, because my father and I, we have a wonderful, wonderful relationship. My mother, a great relationship with both my parents. And my father wanted me to be a medical doctor. That was it. There was no conversation. Wow. This is what you should do. I snuck my degree in psychology. My father assumed that I was going to Acadia University to achieve a bachelor's degree in biochemistry and moving straight over to the University of the West Indies. The hardest thing in my life to this day was to stand up at the Blomidon Inn in Nova Scotia to say, Daddy, in fact, I have done a bachelor's degree in psychology. Oh, his feelings was hurt. But to this day, my father has now recognized that my decision to become a psychologist was the best decision I ever made in my life. And the one thing he always told me that while I was going out this morning, he said, be yourself, always remember that. And to this day, if I were to become a medical doctor, who would I be? I'd be doing what my father wanted me to do. But today, I'm standing as a psychologist and a whole number of other things, but I'm doing those things because I'm doing it for me. But they have given me the supportive system, and sometimes the money, to be able to do those things. And so, you know, it goes back to the parents. Yeah. Allow your children to be great.
Any opportunity I get, so I'm going to the break now, any opportunity I get to speak to young people, one thing I tell them is, figure out what you want to do in life and go and do it. At the end of the day, mommy and daddy will not be there to live out what your dream is. And if you like gardening, go start a landscaping business. You know, whatever it is, determine what you want to do and make a career out of it. You got the rest of your life every morning to get up and go do it.
That's true.
So, gentlemen, we have to take another break in the show. My producer has told me, so I'm going to be obedient today because it's independence. So stay with us. We are in the middle of the show tonight. We celebrate our nation's success stories of under 40 leaders. Our guest, the Director of Youth, Darren Turnquest, producer, director, filmmaker, Lovato Stubbs. We will continue right after this break.
This is us. We all live here. And while we don't think of ourselves as numbers, in the grand scheme of things, numbers are part of who we are. Like your phone number, for instance. That's why at Alive we believe you should keep your number when you switch. Go in store today and ask an Alive switch angel. They'll make it real simple for you. We are alive.
We are now in a new political era, a new prime minister, government, and opposition. What are the new challenges, and what role will the Bahamian people play in this new era of governance? Join me, your host Jerome Sawyer, each week for On the Record as we examine the latest political news and views. That's On the Record, airing every Thursday at 8 p.m. on cable channel 212. See you then.
Honey, did you get that?
Caller ID, because some things should just be standard. Cut the blue wire. Get Rev Voice, save money.
We are back, the second half of tonight's episode On the Record. We're continuing our discussions with Darren Turnquest and Lovato Stubbs, looking at our independence and this question of independence in a very different context tonight, looking at leaders who are under 40, who are poised and in many cases taking over the leadership of this country, not just in the political sphere, but even in politics. You look at the election of Travis Robinson in the last election and others under 40. You look at what is happening in our country, and CEOs and managers are emerging who are in that 30 to 40, even, you know, in some instances, younger category. Do you think we are behind the 8 ball in some respects? I always look and I said, you know, will some of our leaders have to die in office for them to move off the scene? And I always say that publicly sometimes. That, you know, it just seems that for so long, the same people who took us through majority rule, who took us through independence, remain in charge, and in some instances still are. Not, you know, not so much in politics, but even in the civil service, in the public service, in many other aspects of our lives. It would seem that men and women who have served their time are continuing to serve and creating now this cap almost on how far that next generation can go. Darren, I'll start with you. You know, where do you see our country in terms of the in its development of that new generation of leaders?
You know, if you would have asked me this question 10 years ago, I would have had a different answer. Today, I said to you earlier in the show that I vowed to myself that I would spend 2 years in the public service and leave. And I'll be honest with you, and I've shared this with most of the people I know, that the job that I've enjoyed most, the job that's taught me the most, has been this particular job that I'm in, serving in the public service. I believe that the public service is really shaping up in a way and recognizing that the largest population in this country are young people. And it requires a youthful generation, a youthful leadership. It requires people within the public service, not on the political end, but on the civil service end, to begin to take their rightful places in certain positions. Definitely when it comes to the youth standpoint. I believe also when we look at some businesses in this country that a lot of older individuals are running, I don't think we have learned up until now that a succession plan is needed. And in many instances, that succession plan is too late because a lot of individuals are dying off. A lot of individuals are severely ill, and they're finding themselves in a position where there's nobody to fill that void.
It's a vacuum now.
And it is a vacuum. So there are significant gaps. And I think when I look at where I've come in the service, having had the, I guess, resilience in many instances to stay, it is because I see a hopeful future. I see a bright future. But I think we need to find young people who are coming back, young people who are currently in school, to see the intention in their lives to do public service work, to see that as their life goal. You said it best. Some people see themselves walking past particular jobs and positions and career fairs, but I think it's for us to have an objective as to where we would like to go and to clear the path to get there. Some people never see themselves working in a government job at this particular level. I say that in order for you to achieve it, you have to see it and you have to make it clear and you have to be in the right places for those things to happen for you.
Lovato, you created really a place for yourself. And I know from personal interaction that wasn't easy.
Yeah.
You took a bold step and called me during my time at BTC and said, hey, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I want an opportunity. We made that happen for you. But do those opportunities exist across the board? Are the opportunities there for young people to do what you did? Start that business, really expand the industry or expand an area that really has seemingly no potential or no growth. Are there the opportunities? Do they exist? I'm talking about from an industry standpoint as well as from a financial standpoint.
Well, you know, now that we live in a social media world, companies are now drawn more towards media and visuals than radio. Because back in the day, you know, a lot of times radio ads would be the most important thing, but now big companies, small companies, everybody, they're getting towards visuals. So the opportunity is there. And like you said, you know, when I came back home, I called you, and you know, those commercials at the time, I felt like I needed to do those commercials to prove myself to the industry and create my own opportunity. And I always tell any young person that come to me and they intern with my production company, Conk Boy Films, I always tell them, like, you have to create your own opportunity. We live in a world where the world could see your work. You have YouTube, you know, Vimeo. You have so many platforms to showcase your work. And even in my career now, you know, I still do things what I call passion projects with non-client work, where I know that I would give an opportunity to lead to other work. For example, a while back I did a video called Happy Bahamas, Pharrell Williams' song Happy.
My producer was singing.
You were singing.
She was singing the song.
Everybody knows.
With that, I saw the opportunity. You know, I saw that, you know, Pharrell Williams did the song, and I saw that one country did a video. And it was really early on. I was like, it would be cool if we do a Bahamas happy video and really showcase our culture, like John Canoe, where a lot of my work you would always see John Canoe. And with doing that video, you know, it went viral. It was a part of United Nations Day of Happiness. Pharrell Williams sent me a message saying how much he liked it.
Really?
So it was a really great platform. And that's, I always like to use that as an example. Like, that wasn't a client work. That wasn't something that a client hired me to do. I saw the opportunity. And I said, let me do this project because it can get me out there, out in the world, on the global stand, you know, on the global industry. And that's what it did. You know, it really went out there. It has thousands of views on YouTube. So I always tell young people, you know, if you could create your opportunity, it's going to get you work.
What do I need to ask you this? What hope is there for the 20-year-old Baintown young boy who has barely come out of high school with any real skills, very little education? He's watching this show. What hope is there for him?
There's a lot of hope, you know. Like I said, you know, with film and arts, I feel like you could go to film school and you could learn the techniques, but to be a true filmmaker, it's in you, you know. I don't think anything is stopping that person from, you know, becoming a filmmaker. And especially now, like I said earlier, there's people like me that I try to talk to a lot of like, as a friend of mine, she has a film camp. I go and talk to the kids there. I go to talk to different school programs. So it's nothing is stopping them, you know. It's just a matter of picking up a camera, going out, creating something that you feel is true to you, and the world and the Bahamas will, you know, join you. Yeah.
Are we providing enough mentorship opportunities, particularly that older generation? You talk about a succession plan, but are we mentoring our young people enough to begin to move them into new positions?
Another topic that I get excited about, and I don't even want to go to the older generation, because I think in many instances, as it relates to mentorship, Girl Guides and Boy Scouts and all those things we would have been in the Anglican Church, those older people were there. But there's some 45-year-olds and there's some 40-year-olds, and there's some 47-year-olds who are doing absolutely nothing in this country.
Agreed.
Other than raping the country of its money and its resources.
That's right.
And riding on the backs of those same young people by what they're selling to them or the whole 9 yards. We have to understand that we had access and opportunity. I was probably on the last end of it, where the Boy Scouts had more leaders than you could shake a stick at. Right. Robert Bartlett's and all of those people. The Girl Guides are begging right now for people to come back and help. Wow. Do you know how many guiders have gone through? Elma Garraway is still in the Girl Guides, working actively. Anita Bernard,
having retired from the public service, yeah.
And what they're asking for is some of those same guiders. What Robert Bartlett is asking for is some of those same scouts, Boy Scouts, who were in this program.
So what happened? Why is it that we become so selfish that I've amassed this career, this money, and I've gained all this wealth. I live in this wonderful house. I have these cars, my children. To hell with everyone else. Figure it out on your own.
I call it the bad and bougie complex. Maybe, I mean, Jerome, and I'm serious. You ask the question. It's not about government. It's not about church. It's about people. And it's people's responsibility to go back there and to give. And not to give money. Money is easy to give, for those who have it. It's time. Getting that time and that opportunity to go in and change a young man's life. A 20-year-old young man who has something bad going on in his head because he has no other opportunities and his back is against a wall, that's a conversation with a 42-year-old or 43-year-old or 39-year-old to say, hey, you could do better. Hey, there's this particular direction. Hey, why don't you try this out or that out? Because the door he feels at 20 is closed. And there's not enough of us in the army who's going out there and pulling these soldiers, potential great soldiers, out of the clay. We need to stand up and get up as young men and young women in our country. Those of you who are sitting down at your living rooms watching this, what have you done lately to make a difference? We talk about crime, we talk about violence, we talk about the young people in the schools. When last have you taken a lunch break to go into the school and talk to the young people like Mr. Stubbs have done, about industry, about what you do? Make a difference. Stand up.
What motivates you, though, to do the things that you do, to want to help? And to want together, whether it's film, whether it's anything, to really help, because we have a generation of young men who are at risk.
Right, it's true. Yeah. I want to start off by saying it's great that Gentlemen's Club is a nice mentorship. Yes. Travers was in it, Darren and I, in Gentlemen's Club. That's a great program that's mentoring.
Many paths.
Correct, it's true, yeah. I always say, what's knowledge if you can't share it, You have this knowledge. And for me, I want to see a beautiful film industry. I feel like, India has Bollywood, Nigeria has Nollywood, there's Hollywood in LA, why not Carrywood? Joggerwood. So I feel like, film is such a big industry around the world. It creates so many things. It can even be good for tourism, There's so many countries like New Zealand, they shoot Lord of the Rings. People go to that country just to do the tour, to see places where they film. So I really feel like a film industry here would be amazing, because we have the backdrop. People, like I said, when I lived in LA, Florida, or Toronto, and I said I'm from the Bahamas, people would do anything to film in the Bahamas. And we have it. We have the resources. We have it for us, And that's why I said it's always hope for anybody to go out and try to create something, be it film, art, because we have the backdrop and we're unique. There's no other place like the Bahamas,
That much is true. Yeah. Gentlemen, we are going to take a break and return with more of our discussions on the record, looking at this whole issue of the new face of leadership in our country as we move now to the 44th anniversary of independence. We will be back right after this.
Caller ID, call forwarding, call waiting, and call blocking.
think it's time you cut the blue wire.
Cut the blue wire. Save up to $250 on your phone features with RevVoice. Get RevVoice. Save money.
Now you can take the very best in entertainment with you with Cinemax Go. Log in to CinemaxGoLA.com and enjoy more than 300 hours of programming. Blockbuster movies and exclusive series at your pace, as many times as you want. And for free, enjoy Cinemax with your subscription television package. Wow. Cinemax Go. Cinema to go.
Rev, join the revolution.
Speeds for free when you get TV, internet, and phone. Ask for Trio from Rev.
Rev, join the revolution.
Welcome back to this, our final segment of our discussions tonight. My guest, director of youth, Darren Turnquest, filmmaker, producer of Conch Boy Films, Lovato Stubbs, and never mentioned your company. Gentlemen, as we look at this whole issue of independence and where we are in the development of our country, I always try to look at my experience and speak to where we are. And as we sort of want to move into place, more individuals like yourself to take over the reins of leadership of the country and move us forward, we have some fundamental issues. And I'll break down my experience for you in the past 24 hours. I came in last night on a late flight. I met the immigration officer asleep. I had to wake her up to let her know that I was there and needed my passport stamp. This morning, I was trying to find 3 different barbers in business for themselves to give me a proper shave. Couldn't find any of them up to 10 o'clock this morning. Nobody had opened their business or out doing other things. These are people in business for themselves. On the way here, I passed about 30, 40 workers cleaning up the roadside, 5 working, 25, 30 sitting down. These are the realities of the Bahamas that we live in today, 44 years after independence. As we emerge and begin to take the reins of power and authority and move the country forward, we are faced with some serious issues. Our people are of a different mindset. We talk about being first world, but we continue to live and exist in a third world mentality. How can we move a country forward when the people are quite comfortable with the status quo, with the mediocrity, with the business as usual? And you, gentlemen, serve really as an example of going against the grain almost, in terms of what is acceptable behavior and business and standards of doing things.
Yeah, you know what it is? I think passion is the key in all of this, you know? A lot of those people you mentioned, if you walk to them and say, hey, what did you really want to do in life? It's probably not that, you know? And I think a lot of people are afraid to take the leap to pursue their careers that they're passionate about, you know? And I think that's one of the key things, is just finding what you want to do. And that's why it's important to make sure I give that message to the youths, you know? Like, if you're passionate about something, do it. You know what I mean? Don't let nobody stop you or tell you you can't do it.
Do it well.
It's true, that's true.
You used the best word I think that can describe it. You ask a 5-year-old what they want to be. It's 5 things. A 10-year-old, it's 4. A 13-year-old, it's 2. A 17-year-old, I just want a job. That's it. And so a lot of people land in a job. But beyond just the passion, it's the purpose. What's your purpose in being there? What are you trying to achieve? Does this fit into your overall objective and plan? And then there's accountability. And it's rough in the public service being my age. It's not an easy job, by no means. Don't mind the suit and the little tie. Because accountability is a very, very, very important and serious word. And sometimes as Bahamians, here's what we are afraid to do. We're afraid to stand up for what is right. We allow people doing wrong to make us feel uncomfortable in approaching that wrong. And I always tell people that work for me or that environments where I go, poor service, I'm not going to feel bad at a place when there's poor service. I'm going to articulate clearly that this is poor, this is what you should be doing, and this is what I'm not paying for. beyond that, if it's good service, I'm going to speak to that good service as well. If somebody is stealing, why should I be uncomfortable to tell somebody who is stealing that you stole, and there are accountability measures in place? If somebody is sleeping on the job, I shouldn't have to walk up and say, hi, you can't help me, please. Say, no, that's inappropriate. But sometimes we believe, people are of the opinion or the view that when you hold people accountable, you being mean or you being this or that and the next.
The problem is with you.
Yeah, and I don't think that we have had this all of our years of being an independent Bahamas, you know. Correct. Because I think of my days going back to my grandparents on the family island, and still now going in certain family islands. There are accountability structures, there are hard-working and industrious people, and there's a work ethic out of this world. But there's a grouping and some individuals who just assume, once again, that things should be handed to them, that they should just be given something, and that they don't necessarily have to work for it because it's only $200. When I grew up in my house, if my father gave me $500 for Christmas, for spending money, I became afraid because I understood clearly that the $500 was an advance for what I was about to do for the next. You understand? And that was weeding, cutting down banana trees, painting the house. We used to get away with painting the boxing because I would pawn that off of my brother. But that comes from home. My father drove a car, and we would listen out for that car, because when you heard that car say psst, and that came in the driveway, get busy, start doing something. Because if you came home at a particular point, which was not a point of sleep time, he would find something for you to do.
Right, but those attitudes and even those institutions don't always exist. One, fathers are, by and large, very absent, even within the two-parent homes sometimes. There is not that drive that was there 40 years ago when we became, or 44 years ago when we became an independent nation. We have taken so many things for granted, so many liberties, so many things have come so easily to us that we have seemed to have lost focus.
There's something called the informal learning environment. And I think you brought it up about the mentorship and the support and young men and young women watching him as he worked. And I think that's it right there.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, because like I say, any kid that come to me and they say they want to intern, it's amazing when I bring them on set and I see their faces light up and, you know, they ask so many questions. You know, even like what I was saying earlier, I spoke to this film camp and these kids were like 6 and 5 and 7 and they were asking questions, a lot of questions, you know? So it's all about the mentorship, you know what I mean? I think that's key. That's very, very key, you know? If you, in a certain industry, especially an industry like film that's new, if you can mentor somebody that's interested in doing this, it helps drastically.
But mentor, but also to teach people the value of hard work, that you don't walk in and you become Nevada Stubbs tomorrow.
Because that's true. Because for me, you know, it's to get to this point in my life, it's been a long journey. A lot of the journey was in Toronto. I was a production assistant. I had to, you know,
my first job in television was a grip.
See?
I used to run behind the cameras and hold the cords and basketball games.
It's true.
That was my very first job.
It's true, and you had to work towards to that point, you know what I mean? And like I remember having to take a generator, lift a generator from like one place to the next, like a mile away. You know what I mean? There's so many things you have to do. You know, pick up garbage, do all kind of things. But at the same time, I was learning to get to where I am now. You know, absorbing everything. And I think that's key, and that's something that the youths need to. We definitely need to teach the youths that everything isn't overnight. You know, you may see it now and see success and think it is, but it isn't. You know what I mean? We had to go through a long journey of a lot of doors in my face, you know, a lot of doors saying no, to the point to where I had to, you know, prove myself and never giving up. That's key too. You know, you never give up. And I think that may be where a lot of people, when they pursue their passion, a door in their face and they stop. They don't want to jump over that wall, you know? Yeah.
And no means maybe not now.
Correct.
Or not
exactly.
This.
Yeah.
As we sort of look now to this new generation, because really, you know, when you look around, the architects of independence and our forefathers have moved off the scene. by and large, in terms of their leadership, and even from a physical perspective, are moving on and dying out. But really, what is needed in this new Bahamas? What is needed for Conch Boy Films to become the next big studio on a global scale? What's needed for Darren Turnquest to move to Prime Minister of the Bahamas, possibly? I'm just using that in the context of leadership. How do you move from where you are now to really properly moving the country forward, and others like you, the 25-year-old, the 30-year-old who has completed a degree or is in school or coming out of school and is wanting to achieve that measure of success? What is needed to move us towards that?
In the film industry, what we really need is not only the opportunity, but we need grants set up. A lot of grants. You know, I know there's some grants that exist, but we need a little bit more towards
So if we
film.
spend less on the sidewalks,
right,
and maybe more
into film.
okay,
because I think those grants, and once you get those grants, you'll see how important film, like I said earlier, tourism could tap into film. You know, like people come to a country just because something is filmed there. You know, it just create, and we live in a social media world. Film is extremely important, a very important tool. So I think we need a grant system, like for example, Canada. They have this thing called Much FAC, where they give hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to independent artists in terms of creating a music video. They give a grant, you know, and something that would be great, because if we could get that grant, we have the money in the budget to create videos for upcoming artists in the Bahamas, which then turns into them being a global sensation, you know? So that's key. We need more schools dedicated. That's a dream of mine.
Yeah.
That's a dream of mine, is to really create, my dream is to create a film school there in the Bahamas.
Well, hopefully when one of these days, as we celebrate 50 years of independence, if they would still have me, I'll bring you on to talk about that school.
You know, I think you're heading in a very, very good direction, considering I know Minister Pintard has spoken, of course, being a innovator and creation type of a creative himself. He's talked at length about the creative cultural industry. But Jerome, when I think about myself and I think about young people who are either coming through and speaking to me, tolerance is not what we need. Tolerance is not what we need. Take tolerance out. Sometimes tolerance leads to tokenism. That's not what is needed at this particular point. Trust is what is needed. When you go into DC and you go into Toronto, nobody gives you a position because you're young. Somebody gives you a position because you're qualified, because they trust the fact that your qualifications gives you innovation, it gives you creativity, and they also understand that although you might do things differently and against the grain, it is not going to be unethical, it is not going to be untoward, but it's going to get us where we need to get, and it's going to look different, feel different, and be relevant to the times that we are in. So I would say trust, but also positioning as well, because you can't talk this. You have to be positioned for this, and allowing your position of influence to give you the necessary finances and support necessary to move forward.
Good. To your point too about it, you know, the fact that you speak about film, but what you speak of, I think, can work in the context of so many other industries and careers in the Bahamas. If we were, I think, funding our young people in a real tangible way, there are so many talented young Bahamians out there who just do not have the opportunity. And Darren, I know that you see it in your work all the time, who come from lower income homes, just don't have the opportunity, but really have the desire. And that is, I think, really holding us back in many ways. I agree.
But if I might, Jerome, just to tie into what you're saying, desire, opportunity, plan is essential. And they can do well even with funding. But that mentorship is essential to allow for follow-through. Yeah. Because Lovato can tell you, his process was a struggle. It was. And in that struggle, no matter how much money you got, you need that support. You need that base. You need that understanding. And I think that's where we have to marry all of these elements to get the success that we need. Sometimes people like it when young people fail, because there you go, another young person. They said they could do it. Ha 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 ha.
No, so I have to stay here now for another 10 years.
That's tolerance. You understand? That's tolerance. That's not trust. Allow people to be great.
That's true. Yeah, Darren hit it on the nail, you know? Yeah, you definitely got to allow people to be great, because there's so many young people that not only in film, in so many different industries that can make such a difference, you know, and put the Bahamas on the map, you know, and the global, you know, standards. And it's just giving that opportunity, you know, the older folks, just giving that opportunity to those young people to show what they can do, you know, and I think that's the key, you know, it's just opportunity, giving that opportunity, you know,
So definitely we hope that in the, you know, those who are watching this will begin to understand that it isn't just about throwing money, but it is about creating the opportunity and mentorship. Gentlemen, I just would like to take an opportunity to thank you for participating in this show with us. This was very important for me because I think we are at the point in our development where, in terms of country, we're at the point in our development now where now more than ever we have to begin to look forward and be forward thinking. I think the power of the millennials and the vote in the last election proved something very significant, that our young people have a very loud voice. They are speaking very loudly, whether those in a position of power are listening, and how actively are they listening? Because, you know, in school they used to teach us about active and passive listening. Well, they say, I know you heard me, but are you listening? So I think that's going to be very important for us going forward. And I trust that, you know, in another few years, when we have an opportunity to speak in this environment and speak to where we are in terms of our development, that we would have seen the fruits of investing even more heavily in gentlemen like yourself and ladies as well. I do want to say that I was hoping to have a female guest tonight, but that didn't work out. But I do want to thank you for coming. Congratulations on the success you've received. Conboy Films is doing very well. I'm always very proud. I have to say, I gave Vado his first big break.
He did.
We created those wonderful commercials, and I'm very happy.
It started from there, you know?
Thank you for that. I even gave Darren his first break on TV, you know. He came on my show back there, and he's a superstar now. I have to make an appointment to get him to come on. So congratulations, and continue to do the great work that you are doing. So thank you very much. Folks, I hope that you have enjoyed tonight's show. Special thanks to my guests, Darren Turnquest and Lovato Stubbs, my producer, technical staff, and of course you, our audience watching week after week. We thank you so much for joining us for On the Record every week. Also, a very happy Independence to all of you, and happy Independence to the entire Bahamas. Once again, I'm your host, Jerome Sawyer. We'll see you next time.